Thank you, Chairman Diaz. Thank you, Ranking Member. Secretary Rubio, I want to thank you for your efforts to really refocus, as you've talked about, the State Department and its foreign aid programs and what their core mission should have been all along, should be now going forward, safeguarding U.S. interests abroad as a first line of defense. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. We must see some return to the United States of America on these programs. Foreign aid is not, never should have been a private charity. While we lap the world in humanitarian aid, we have to make sure that these taxpayer funds are spent in accordance with security needs. That's why Chairman Diaz-Balart and Chairman Cole renamed this subcommittee, National Security Department of State and Related Programs, to better reflect what we're doing here. And that's why I would like to propose to you, sir, that we reorganize the best, most impactful foreign aid programs that remain into national security investment projects. Basically, sir, if it doesn't have to do with our national security interests, we shouldn't be spending taxpayer money on it. A lot of those things fall into this bucket, though, sir, of national security investment projects. In Jordan, we were in Jordan last October. I was honored to go with Ms. DeLauro and Chairman Cole on this congressional delegation trip. There's a desalination plant that takes water out of the Red Sea. As you know, we've invested millions of dollars in this, supplies drinking water to Amman, Jordan. That country, as you know, is growing. The parliament is growing number of Muslim Brotherhood members. King Abdullah, we met with him, and he's very concerned about the state of that country. The folks of Amman spend 1/3 of their paycheck on drinking water. And so it's in our national interest, I feel, projects like these to go forward. So these friends of ours that we rely on, and they rely on us, can have great relationships. But as you know, this whole program's gotten screwed up. We spent $50,000 in taxpayers' money to fund transgender opera in Colombia, $2 million for sect changes and LGBTQ activism in Guatemala, $70,000 for a DI musical in Ireland. Mr. Secretary, we're getting a handle on how this all happened, okay? I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around this. How did we get this screwed up with these programs? How do we keep it from happening again, sir?
Well, I think that's precisely the point of these reforms. Someone has to speak up and say they own these projects or they think it's going to make a difference. You highlighted a few. I just looking here on my papers because I wanted to read you a few from the, the greatest hits.
Please do.
Of some of the programs that we've identified. That I mean, look, this is not fully representative of it, but $10 million for voluntary medical male circumcision in Mozambique. $227,000 for Big Cat's YouTube channel. I don't know what that is, but $20 million for fiscal federalism in Nepal. $1.5 million for voter confidence in Liberia. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. The list goes on and on. I mean, there's more here, but the point being is that some of these programs, look, there are programs that are really good in our national interest. You spoke about the desalination programs in Jordan. We brought most of those back right away. They actually were part of the initial carve-out. There was an error made. Those were added in, and the remaining 2 programs are coming online. There are programs that are not bad, but are not necessarily core to our national interest. And then there are some that were just absurd and ridiculous, and nobody owned them, and no one could raise their hand and say, that's my program, this is why I think it's important. And in many cases, we're coming at the expense of something else that could have been spent on. That's what we're trying to avoid, and that's why driving these decisions and this ownership of what we fund down to the front lines at our embassies and regional bureaus is so critical to preventing this from happening again.
Since its inception in the 1980s under President Bush, PEPFAR has saved more than 25 million lives. This is a program that is critical, but it was never meant to be a permanent program. How do we work to ensure, and I've got a plan to curtail this U.S. spending over a period of years, not to just cut it off entirely, but to turn it over to secular entities rather than being taxpayer funded through these programs. We've got to keep this program going until it can gain other legs from other sources. What is your thought on that?
Well, 85% of beneficiaries under PEPFAR are back on and have been, so that's a good news. You're right about the program, and that is that ideally foreign aid and development programs are programs that end, and they end because they achieve their goal. And the goal here is to either end the transmission of the disease, which is critical, and also to improve our partner capacity, basically the nation state's ability to deal with it themselves. What cannot be the foreign policy of the United States is that we are for an undefined period of time or in perpetuity, we're going to fund every great cause on the planet. We just can't do it. We can't afford it. And we're not going to continue to do that. We can't continue to approach foreign aid in that way.
Thank you, sir. I yield back.